which is no more than there's ever been throughout our history, but then the cabinet is also so much bigger, so proportionately they have much less than they were before.
And you suggested a particular solution.
Well, according to the CEDAW, the Convention for Discrimination Against Women, we are supposed to take steps to ensure at least 30% of women are in decision-making positions. So basically that means affirmative action. And the government has promoted this for board places, for example, company boards, but not so much for politics. And I think there's been great reluctance on political parties, all political parties, to implement that 30%, even though some of them I think have more female members than men. But that's what needs to be done, and you have to have the will to do it if you really believe in that women should have say. But if you don't, then I guess you won't do anything. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for summarizing that your answers just now. And this is an answer to a two-part question. The second part of the question was, how do we ensure greater empowerment of women in view of the increasing restrictions placed on them by religious influence?
I guess by religious influence they mean among Muslims, where a lot of conservative Muslims think that women cannot be leaders. Primarily, I think because of biological functions. There was, strangely enough, a woman politician who suggested that women could not become chief minister because she would not be able to attend some religious functions with the Sultan. But then, in the job description for chief minister, I don't think that's the first one on the list. I'm sure the job of the chief minister is to administer the state, bring economic prosperity, and do all sorts of good things for the citizens of the state. So I don't know whether that should be an excuse for not ever electing a woman to the post of chief minister. It's been done in many countries, so I don't see why we can't. But then again, it's a matter of will, right? If you don't believe that women should have that position, then you're not going to do anything to make it happen.
Okay, so it's up to you women out there to follow Marina's lead and ensure that you have a say in what is happening in this country.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are women who actually buy into that they have to take a lesser role, they cannot lead, it's not for women to lead for whatever reason. And that's really unfortunate. That's why they're not getting anywhere. They seem to be happy to take a lesser role. Well, that's not going to help when it comes to women issues.
So I guess that begs the question about educating these women to show them that it isn't against their religion, particularly Islam, for them to lead.
Not at all. I mean, Islamic history is replete with all sorts of women leaders. The Queen of Sheba, for instance, was mentioned in the Quran as an example of an exemplary leader because she was very fair and she led very well. She did good for her people. The wife of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the first wife, Khadija, of course, was a well-known businesswoman, very successful. And his youngest wife, Aisha, of course, after he died, was also a leader in the community. People went to her for her wisdom and her knowledge. So, it's not unusual for Muslim women to lead. But nowadays, we seem to be making it an issue, and I don't understand that at all.
Good point, and let's move on to the next question. What comes to mind, this is by Revathi Subramanian, and she says, what comes to my mind when we talk about gender equality is salary and promotions given to women, and that this is generally less than what our male counterparts are getting. Why do you think such a situation still exists? And what do you think can be done to rectify or address this issue, given that women are capable of doing the job equally well, if not better? Thank you, says Revathi Subramanian.
Well, I do believe that, it should be equal pay for equal work done, and this situation should not exist, but it all boils down to stereotypes about women, that women, are also going to have to take most of the responsibilities at home, and therefore she won't be able to devote all her time to her job, and therefore she should be penalized for that. That's it, this old way of looking at men and women and gender roles, that men's responsibility is completely outside the home and women's at home as well as outside if they're working. And one, we need to balance out those gender roles so that men also spend more time at home, because I think personally they're losing out on a lot of good that they could get from raising their children more closely. And then I think when we do that, when we balance those roles, then these types of excuses for not paying women the same as men should be eradicated, because it doesn't make sense. It just is discriminatory, in fact, to say that women are doing less work. In fact, in some areas particularly, I think women are performing just as well as men. The only area that women are actually earning more than men actually is modeling. But that has also some gender issues related to that as well. But yeah, there's no reason to do this, and our constitution, as far as I know, says that we cannot discriminate on the basis of gender. So I would think there's a great case for women who feel that they've been discriminated in terms of pay or promotion just because of their gender, to do something about it, to take action, because it's unconstitutional.
So the issues would be not just equal pay, but chances of promotion, the glass ceiling.
Well, it's related, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. We're talking to Datin Puruka Marina Mahathir on HAKAM's Asasi series. Please share this page on your Facebook and tag friends of yours that might be particularly interested in this unique opportunity to ask and get answers from Marina Mahathir herself. Next question is from Kwa Su N. You have put a lot of effort in advocating for the rights of Muslim women in Malaysia. In particular, you have emphasized that equality between men and women needs to be addressed at home to eradicate inequality in society. What about addressing this issue in local schools? How do we ensure that teachers and parents are good role models for their children? And finally, is this problem specific only to the Muslim community rather than other women in Malaysia?
Well, I'll start with the last question first. I don't think it's specific to just the Muslim community. It just so happens that my colleagues and I work in that particular area. So, when we talk about it, mostly we're talking about Muslim women. But of course, it exists in every community. But our stand is that to have democracy in society, you have to have democracy in the family, because the family is the basic unit of society. So if there is gross inequalities in the family, in terms of gender roles and all that sort of thing, then naturally it's going to also occur in society, because the mindset starts from there, right? It's the mindset of the husband, it's the mindset of the kids, and they will go on and continue this in society. So it's really sort this out in the family, where the husband and wife are seen as equal partners in the marriage. They take equal responsibilities for the well-being of the family, and they are equally respected in their roles. In terms of schools, well, I think again it goes back to the home. You can't expect the school to teach kids about equality and democracy and justice and all that if they go home and find the reverse happening at home, right? So it really starts at home, and that's why we work on family laws, because the family laws need to be equitable, they need to be just, and for both partners in the marriage to feel that they have an equal role, equal responsibility. So it really, really does start at home.
Okay, that's a very valid point. Because the parents are the most powerful role models.
Yeah, and I would say that it's not an unusual thing, something alien to this world. Turkey, for instance, which is a Muslim country that's fairly conservative these days, they amended their constitution to recognize that a husband and wife are equal in a marriage.
Oh, it's in their constitution.
It's in their constitution, so it's not something unusual.
But having said that, it's not an ideal world, and should not the children have an opportunity, if they've not been exposed to it at home, to be exposed to it in schools, and perhaps teach their families or parents, or raise this issue if they perceive things not to be.
It would be nice, it would be ideal, but I would say that parents like that are not likely to send their kids to a school which would teach them anything contrary to what they're learning at home. I mean, if you had a progressive school,
progressive parents would be sending them there.
It would be full of kids from progressive families, right? Very rarely that it goes the other way. So it's an ideal, but I'm not sure that it actually works in real life.
Thank you, Marina. A question from Seni Yi-Ng. What do you envisage will be the situation for gender equality in Malaysia in 10 years' time?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, really. It's very hard to predict because I think that the trends, the official trends are not good, that women seem to be, on the one hand, advancing, but on the other hand also suffering from a lot of pushback, especially Muslim women. You get criticized for every single thing that you do. I think there's a very extreme tall puppy syndrome almost, where if you achieve anything, you win a gold medal or whatever, you can expect to be criticized and brought down rather than praised. So it's tough going for women at the moment. But having said that, I think given the way the numbers in universities, the sheer numbers of women getting educated and more educated than their peer group males.
Yes, I think the majority now in universities are women.
Yes, absolutely. So I think it will be a momentum that is just going to happen, that young women will just want to do more things. I keep meeting lots of young women who really give me hope, because they're doing all sorts of social enterprise, or they're getting into business, or they have so many ideas and things, and they're just doing it. They're not waiting for someone to tell them or to give them permission to do it. So I think you can have all these attempts at pushing women back, but they will fight back. They will resist, and they won't bow down to it. And that's going to be a fact of life, because that's happening all over the world, including our country.
So there is hope.
There is some hope. I don't like to be pessimistic,
okay.
But I would also like to be cautious.
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, I have daughters, so I wouldn't want to adopt a future for them here.
And this leads to the next question by Judy Yuan. What is being done on a grassroots level and community level to support and educate gender equality to younger members who are less fortunate? And how can this be used to make a difference for the future?
Well, I can only speak for my organization, Sisters in Islam. We do a lot of training, if you like, to women on women's rights, Muslim women's rights particularly, and that I think helps raise awareness among a lot of women on their rights and what they can do to actualize that. Apart from that, and we work with single mothers, young people, anyone actually who wants to have this knowledge. I can't speak for anyone else. We are certainly a very small organization, so our reach is only so much. But it would be good if schools and other places, universities, did something to educate our young women about the possibilities, the rights that they have, and things like that. But I don't know whether that's really being done, at least on an official level. Just education as it is now is not enough. I think you have to do more. The TV series that I used to do, we've done some kind of workshops in universities around the country on leadership for young women, and it's been really eye-opening. Once you get a certain idea into young women's heads that they can do more, they can achieve more than what they've been told, they really kind of, a light turns up, and then they suddenly see, all sorts of possibilities, and it's wonderful to see it.
That's great, to see that shift in thinking.
Yeah, it's like, oh wow, a light bulb goes up, oh wow, and it's great. So we just need to have more of those.
Well, I'm pleased to announce that this Facebook Live is now being streamed by KiniTV on YouTube and on their webpage. The power of having an icon like Marina Mahathir with us. We move on to questions looking specifically at women's rights and Islam. This is a question by Robin Choi. There have been news reports of seemingly educated, intelligent women, not just from Malaysia, but from Western countries like the US and the UK, leaving the comfort and security of their homes to join ISIS and become war brides. Why do you think any girl or woman would do this, especially women who've enjoyed freedoms and liberties afforded by modern democracy, freedom to education, a voice to speak, to be heard, freedom to move around? Why abandon these rights for a life of violence, where women are nothing more than chattels, and in a world where freedom of speech, movement, association, education are all restricted for women?
I haven't seen any real studies on these women who have left to go and join ISIS. I've only seen some on men. It's very interesting because the greatest number have actually come from Europe, where Muslims are minorities, and a lot of them are not very well educated on religion at all. So I guess there are many things you can speculate about them, but I think that living in a democracy is not enough, because you have to feel part of it. You have to feel part of the mainstream. But if you live in a democracy, but you feel marginalized because of your religion, because of your race, whatever, then you feel alienated from that society and you're unhappy. And it doesn't help when these societies also sometimes take actions which seem to be discriminatory, and therefore it just makes you angry. It's like, I live in this society, I'm a citizen, I was born here, but you know, they don't make me feel as if I'm part of it. And that anger, you know, then boils over to, and they're looking for something else that makes them feel included, makes them feel part of something.
Or that they can take some form of action.
So they can take some form of action. So I guess to some people, ISIS seems to be the answer. And so they go off. I mean, it's romantic, and in many ways you're fighting for a higher cause. And so they go off. So I guess that's why it's probably a mystery to the rest of us. Why would you put yourself in danger? But it's I guess it's a type of thinking that applies to some people and not to everyone. I mean, I think if we look at the numbers, it looks like a lot. But I think if you look in terms of percentages overall of a Muslim population, it's not very many at all. But it just seems so, you know, so strange that, you know, people want to abandon comfort to go. But, you know, people have done that forever. During the Spanish Civil War, you know, people were volunteering from America to go and fight in this foreign country for democracy or whatever. People do that.
If they believe in it strongly
enough. If they believe in it, yeah.
Well, talking about discrimination against Muslim women, and particularly in Western countries, Camille Laurent Loveberg asks, as a feminist, what is your opinion on the French polemic on the burkini?
Well, I said something about that in my column today, if anybody read it. I think it's entirely hypocritical because, you know, it's to associate this outfit with the whole of Islam, and particularly with terrorism, is just outright ridiculous. I mean, it's women who want to spend time on the beach and in the sea, which everyone else can do. Why focus on women? You know, a man could wear exactly the same swimming costume as any other man, go lie on the beach for a few hours, get up, get dressed, and then go and bomb something. But you're not going to be able to know that just because he's dressed like everyone else. But you think that these women, because they are all covered up, have bad intentions. And I think it's really, to me, it's really weird. It's really extreme, and they really deserve all the condemnation. I'm really disappointed. And, you know, as you say, I'm a chevalier from France. So, and I've had a long relationship in connection with France because of my you know, family connections. So I'm really disappointed with this type of attitude because it's so sexist, for sure. I'm also disappointed that very few Western feminists have said anything about it, and that there were, you know, those pictures of the policeman getting this woman to take off her clothes. There were other women around them who did nothing, who just sat there and watched. Yeah, it's terrible. But, you know, it is the reverse side of the other form of you know, sexism and coercion, which is to force women to cover up. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's a fight over women's bodies. It's making a piece of cloth or an item of clothing the sole symbol of an entire religion.
And it's simplifying a very complex problem.
It's so simplistic that it's some of the most, some of the strongest feminists I know are women who wear the headscarf. Really, really, you know, I mean, they think I'm, you know, but, you know, these women are much more. So it really does not correlate at all.
Now we move on to some questions on diversity. Gan CG asks, is our racial and religious diversity more of a cross for the country to carry, or more divisive rather than a plus factor? What is your opinion?
I think, you know, diversity is definitely a good thing. It has to be a good thing. I can't imagine living in a monocultural, monoracial, mono-religious country. I used to live in Japan. I always like to tell the story. I used to live in Japan, and I love Japan. You know, it's a great country to visit. But I lived there for 2.5 years, and you always feel alien there. You always feel alien because the country is, at least physically and you know, language-wise and religion-wise, not at all diverse. You know, everyone, you know, is pretty much, you know, Japanese, and I love Japanese people. They're the nicest, politest people. But you do, when you come from Malaysia particularly, where you're used to hearing different languages and seeing different types of people
and eating different types
and
of
eating
food.
different types of food, you don't realize what a gift this is until you go and live in a country like Japan. You know, where everything looks the same. Of course, people by nature are not the same. But when you see it as a whole like that, it really makes a difference. So I think our diversity is a very rich gift that we have, but one that we have to manage well. You know, and I think we have done so for the longest time, but now, I don't know, there's some people who seem to think that this is not a good thing, and that it's better to have one race or whatever. And to me, that doesn't make sense. Every country in the world is getting more diverse.
And
Every country.
Celebrating diversity.
And celebrating it. Of course, they're having issues with it, but they know that that's the way the world is. I remember I went to school and university in the UK, and I remember that when you used to go to supermarkets, all you could find was Western food. You know, just sort of bland Western food. But now you go to a supermarket and you can find Indian food, Chinese food, Japanese food, Malay food.
In the UK.
In the UK. In the UK. You know, even places like Marks and Spencer, you can find that. I mean, it's incredible. And it's great, and everybody loves it. So, you know, why fight against it? I think we should enjoy it and nurture it, and, you know, treat it well and do everything we can to celebrate it.
Which leads us to the next question by Jay, who says, diversity can make or break a nation. What should the average person bear in mind to celebrate Malaysia's diversity? And what can one do to reverse attempts or ploys rooted in racial or religious diversity? I think that's been ploys for polarization, which may lead to the nation being pulled apart.
Well, I don't think diversity by itself can break a nation. It's how you handle it, of course, and you know, people can try and you know, as they say, attempt to polarize people, and that's a sad thing. There has to be, when you have measures, and I'm not against affirmative action per se, if there are good reasons for it. But when it's exploited and abused, etc., then you know what people want is a sense of fairness. If you can justify something and say that it is just, then people will accept it. But when people feel that something is unfair, on the ground level, ordinary people, I think what we can do is to learn more about each other. We have lived with this diversity for a long time, but actually we know things on a very superficial level. For example, I was just thinking that, you know, if a foreign visitor comes and their host is Malay and it is during the Hungry Ghost month, would that Malaysian be able to explain what is the Hungry Ghost Festival? You know, and similarly, if it was any other festival by other people, you know. And if we can't do that, we should be embarrassed.
We should all know about
We should all know about each other's, you know,
religions and
cultures and etc.
And that leads us to the next question by Hamid Darus, not a stranger to human rights and issues relates to that. What are your views on race-based politics? In his view, he says race-based policy is the root cause of most of the problems that Malaysia faces today. Do you agree?
I don't know. I'm not a political analyst. Race-based politics goes back to before our independence, even. Of course, its roots go back to the colonial times when the Brits used it to basically divide and rule.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we carried on with that. I don't know why, but you have to ask our long gone founding fathers why they continued with it. As for the root cause of most of the problems, possibly. I think we managed, you know, having settled on that basis for our country. You know, we've managed it pretty well for a long time. But then again, I think people put up with it as long as they feel again that things are done fairly.
Yes.
That everyone has a good shake at, you know, whatever opportunities. But if they feel a sense of unfairness, then you know, then that's a problem. In America, for instance, when they have affirmative action, it's for minorities. But now the majority are feeling hard done by because they feel like, for example, university places are harder to get into because there's more, the universities wants more minorities. So people have found like, you know, you might be 1/8 Native American and you write down that you are Native American so that you get a place. So, you know, those sorts of things happen as well because people feel that suddenly there's regular unfairness, right? And that's what you have to manage, I reckon, yeah.
Well, from race to religion, you've been quoted in one interview as saying, if I could change one thing, I would get rid of all religious departments. Hamid Durrus asks, what about political parties which use only religion as a platform, like PAS, for example?
Well, it's really unfortunate in this country that race and religion are like conflated. You know, so yeah. Well, yeah, I did say we should get rid of all religious departments because when we say religious departments, basically they mean just Muslim religion, right? And not every religion. It would be great, for instance, if we had a ministry of interreligious cooperation or something like that. That would be great. You know, whose mandate is to bring everyone together, to create mutual understanding. That would be terrific. But we don't have that. What we have are just, you know, departments, extremely well-funded departments for the promotion of just one religion. And you know, it doesn't, it's, I'm not sure how well they're doing. They never get audited, for instance. And you know, it creates a lot of uneasiness with the rest of the population measure. But when it comes to political parties, well, I don't know whether you can ban it completely, right? Because we do have freedom of association, so people can get together on whatever platform that they want. It's just, you know, what they do with it. I mean, you can, you know, be a religious-based party if you want, but as long as you're not, you know, putting down other religions at the same time. I also have a bit of an issue with like professional associations that also have religion.
Like Muslim lawyers.
Lawyers or doctors or not just Muslim and there are others as well, because it makes you wonder which do they prioritize, their professionalism or their religion, because that affects how they how they do their work too. So that I'm more concerned about, because when you go to say a doctor, you expect certain services, and then you're not going to get it because that person the doctor has a religious objection. What are you supposed to do? You don't always have the means to go to another doctor.
So religion might override the interests of the patient, perhaps.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to questions about nationhood. Those who've just joined us, we have Dr. Marina Mahathir and HAKAM's Asasi series, answering questions that you've posed on social media. And please share this page. It's also being broadcast or streamed by KiniTV on YouTube and on their page as well. We've been looking at gender issues, we've been looking at diversity, and now we're going to look at nationhood. The first question is from Rina. Where are we now in terms of gender equality, diversity, and Malaysia as a nation? Where are we going? How integrated are we as a society? And what can bring us together beyond a common enemy?
That's such a huge question. I think that would kind of be a PhD thesis or a book. I'm not sure I can answer all of that in one go. I think I've already said something, covered about gender equality and diversity. And Malaysia as a nation, I think we're kind of at a crossroads, that we could go forward in a really progressive way, or we could go backwards. And a lot of it is due to leadership and what sort of leadership that we have. We have the wrong type of leadership, we won't move forward. And I think we have to decide for ourselves what type of leadership we want. One that's inclusive, that's progressive, or one that's self-serving and it doesn't really think about the great majority of Malaysians, especially the most needy and the most marginalized, etc. So, I think we really have to think about where we're going. And right now, I don't think we can afford to sort of lie back and see what happens and all that.
Passive.
I don't think we can be passive anymore. Things happen too fast. The world is going at a really fast rate, and we do have the right to say something, to do something. And what's the point of being a citizen of a country if you're going to be simply passive and just expect other people to do the talking and the action?
Do the voting.
Everyone gets to vote.
But if you don't go out and vote,
I think that's really, we should really appreciate, the value of our own vote, because it's really important. There are still countries in the world where people cannot vote, and so it's very precious being able to vote, and we should exercise it.
And I think Malaysia's got to a stage where we can rise above race-based politics or religion-based politics and vote people based on their policies.
Yes, absolutely. And we should be more demanding of people's policies, like, what do you stand for, and it's not just about personality or whatever. I think we need to be more demanding of our representatives.
Jolin Chin, we have another question by Jolin Chin, who seems rather pessimistic about it all. Why is it still a good idea to bring a child into the world in Malaysia? Religious and cultural extremism is on the rise. Women are judged by what they wear or do not wear, rather than what they can contribute to their families, community, and country. Public education is going down the drain, yet funds are diverted to other lesser pursuits at the expense of our future generations. the administration, whether at the federal, state or council level, is corrupted to the core, says Julian Chin. And with so much uncertainty and nonsense going on, what can a child born today look forward to in the next 10 to 20 years? All these huge questions.
Huge question, and incredibly pessimistic as well. But you know, we can sit here and ask these questions, and you know, and it's all pretty much rhetorical. You know, we're like, oh, it's so terrible, everything's terrible, I would never bring a child into the world, and there's nothing for them. Well, only if you don't demand change and you don't go out and do something to change it. Lie down and die. You know, with that sort of attitude. I'm a great believer in not taking things lying down. So I think, you know, that we cannot be so pessimistic and depressed about everything, because you know there's no point in that. Nothing will move, and I think people are hoping we will be, you know, people in power are hoping we will be depressed and complacent and don't do anything and just accept whatever. That's the easiest thing. Well, at the very least, we should make life difficult for them, because we want a better future. You know, a better future is not going to be handed to us just like that. We have to work for it. And so if you want to have a child and you want a good future for them, then we have to do something about it. And I don't think just going to another country is necessarily the answer. Everywhere can change, you know.
And I think regardless of whatever problems our country is facing, we're still in a much better situation than many other countries in the world.
We are.
We should appreciate that, while at the same time there is so much improvements that can be made.
Oh, absolutely. Every country needs improvements, but it's not going to happen on its own.
Right. Spontaneously.
Yeah.
We're coming to the end of the time we have for this Asasi series. I'm here with Dr. Marina Mahathir, and this is HAKAM's Asasi series. We've had Dr. Ambika Srinivasan, Stephen Thiru, President of the Malaysian Bar, and today is Marina Mahathir. This question just came in by JVBYT on YouTube. We're on YouTube right now, thanks to KiniTV. And his or her question is, recent events in the Philippines, there were many drug lords who were not spared the capital punishment. Would this be a violation of human rights in this context? And what is your take, Marina?
You know, is this called capital punishment? You know, capital punishment is usually inflicted on people after they've been arrested, tried, and then, you know, then if you have capital punishment, then that's what happens to them if found guilty. This is sheer, you know, vigilantism is what it is, you know, just giving, carte blanche to police and even the public to go and kill, you know, not even arrest, not even do citizens arrest, kill anyone suspected of being involved in drugs. And to me it's crazy, you know, because
to be killed based on a suspicion.
On a suspicion, or even, you know, might have nothing to do with drugs. I just read there was a 4-year-old girl who was killed, a 5-year-old girl was killed. There have been people who...
So these are not drugs?
No. And there have been people who have given themselves up to the police and released, and then still killed a few days after. So, you know, it's completely wild, and I'm probably going to be crucified by a lot of people in the Philippines, and I have friends in the Philippines for this. But in a way, I understand, though, the feeling that things are so out of control that you need strong action. But I'm not sure that violence is the solution. Violence begets violence. And in the end, I think it will all, you know, lead to into a very, very bad situation.
And I think it's not just drug pushers, but drug users themselves.
Yes, and everyone, anyone linked with
and they are
drugs.
Often marginalized communities and
Exactly.
are victims.
Exactly. I'm really kind of surprised in the Philippines, because it is a Catholic country that values life. And I don't know what the church has said about this, but it would be very unusual, I think,
for them to
condone something like this.
Well, we've come to the end of our session. This is HAKAM's Asasi series with Datin Paduka Marina Mahathir. Thank you very much for sharing with us your thoughts and your expert opinions on issues of gender equality, diversity, and nationhood. And to round up this session, is there a message for you for Malaysia Day coming up next week?
Well, Malaysia Day is coming up in a week's time, and as always, I know it has to be a day of celebration and a day of hope, I hope, for everyone. I think we should remember that we do have a wonderful country. We should appreciate it, and we should do everything we can to protect it from breaking apart or being torn apart by all this political manipulations. So I wish everybody a happy Malaysia Day, and I hope everyone has a terrific and fun day next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina.